John Hook's Newsmaker Saturday starts now.
Thanks for joining us on Newsmaker Saturday. A little more than a week until Election Day, we continue to interview candidates for some of the biggest races in the state. And a few weeks ago, Republican candidate for Senate Blake Masters joined me in the studio, the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate challenging Mark Kelly. Here is that interview in its entirety. So when you announced and when you kind of came out, I was like, who is this guy? How does Blake Masters become a candidate for U.S. Senate?
Well, you know, I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, and my parents never left. My wife's parents never left. Actually, my wife and I met in middle school in Tucson, if you can believe it. It took me a few years to convince her to date me, but I was very persistent. So we started dating in high school. Now we've been married for over 10 years. We have 3 beautiful boys, and I went to Stanford Law School, but a couple of years ago, we moved back to be closer to our parents after we suffered a family tragedy. We lost my sister-in-law. So now it's late 2017. I'm back in Tucson getting my bearings. And, you know, the town that I grew up in, it had changed. The state that I grew up in, it had changed, mostly in ways I didn't quite like. So start, reacclimating to Arizona. And then a couple years later, boom, suddenly we'd lost our 2 Senate seats. You know, when I was a kid, that was John Kyle and John McCain.
Yeah,
this was a Republican state. And I look at what Joe Biden was doing to this country, what Mark Kelly was voting for. And I said, enough of this. Let me put my business career on hold, throw my hat in the ring, because I knew I could actually represent Arizona families.
It's heady stuff. I mean, what qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator?
Well, you know, I've succeeded in business. You know, I wrote the #1 best-selling book on startups, entrepreneurship, innovation this century, actually. So I've done a lot. We can talk about resumes. I worked with Peter Thiel. So I've seen innovation. I've seen firsthand how the government can get in the way and really just destroy things. Now it's something that we're experiencing every day under Joe Biden and Mark Kelly's so-called leadership. But really, I think we need to get back to the citizen-statesman model. You know, I think I have a lot to contribute. I think Arizona, we're all going in the wrong direction in the last 2 years. I mean, crime is up, open borders, inflation, fentanyl, you know, double-digit inflation. And I knew that I could get in this race and beat Mark Kelly and actually put a check on Joe Biden. And I think that's qualification enough. I'm actually going to care about the people of Arizona. That's not something I see in so many of our leaders today.
So there has to be a rationale for running, and you don't like the direction of the country, but what would you want to accomplish as a U.S. Senator? What is the driving thing that you want to get in there and do?
First thing that comes to mind is border security. We don't have it right now. Mark Kelly will hem and haw, and he's on your television screen with these advertisements because he's got a lot of money. He's pretending to be concerned about border security, but every time he's gotten in the U.S. Senate, every opportunity to vote for border security, he votes against it. He's voting for Joe Biden's open borders, and as a result, we're all less safe. We've got illegals coming by the hundreds of thousands per month. Fentanyl is coming in. The Mexican drug cartel loves it. If the cartel people could vote, they'd all vote for Mark Kelly because they're getting what they want from him, and it's killing teenagers in Arizona.
I've asked everybody this question on this program. It strikes me as an open border, de facto open border policy. Can you give me a reason why you think this is happening? Why it's being kind of left unchecked? People are just rolling in, surrendering, willingly coming in and surrendering to Border Patrol. Some don't. Some maybe with criminal records try to skirt and get in. But mainly people are showing up, throwing their hands up, saying, take me, I'm yours. Well, why is this happening?
I understand why those people want to come here.
Absolutely right.
It's the greatest country in the history of the world. And Joe Biden chose this. A lot of people talk about, oh, this border crisis, it's mysterious. Where is it? No, it's not an act of God. We don't need to wonder where it came from. Joe Biden chose it with his policies. Day one, he halted.
To what end, though?
I don't think the modern left, the modern radicals running the Democratic Party, the people who tell Mark Kelly what to think, the people who are really running Biden's White House, I don't think they believe in America. I think they're ashamed of it. That's why they push the 1619 history curriculum on our children. They don't believe in borders. They don't believe in sovereignty. They want to cede United States sovereignty to global international organizations or the WHO. They don't believe in borders.
This is the great replacement theory that people have accused you of being an adherent to?
No, to me, the problem with illegal immigration has nothing to do with race. It has to do with nationality. I don't think people from Sweden should be able to come in and flood our country either. Our country exists for Americans. That's not about race, that's about nationality. And I just want families to be safe in Arizona. I just want a normal person to be able to work hard, save, buy a house, get married, have some kids, and raise their family here. But you can't do that if our border is wide open. You can't do that if Joe Biden and Mark Kelly are welcoming literally millions of illegal aliens. They're resettling these people in our cities and our towns, and it's just wrong.
Okay, Senator Kelly has a record in the U.S. Senate. What, in your view, has he done well? And where has he failed, in your view?
I think it's mostly a failure. You know, it's not that partisan. I can look at Senator Sinema, who I think is too left-wing. She's a Democrat. I'd rather have two conservative Republicans in. But I respect Senator Sinema for her independence on key occasions, right? On defending the filibuster, on opposing the Build Back Better bill, which would have spent $3 trillion and made our inflation worse. She was independent. She bucked her party. She told Chuck Schumer to go pound sand, and I respect her for that. When I look at Mark Kelly, he's voting almost entirely in lockstep for Joe Biden's failed agenda. And that's not what he said he'd do. He said he'd be independent, and he lied. He's actually voting to the left of Bernie Sanders. So I don't respect that, and it's hurting people in Arizona.
One of the issues that's animating this race, obviously, is the Supreme Court decision on abortion. Can you articulate now your position on abortion? Because it's changed. You were absolutely in the primary 100% pro-life. I don't think any exceptions. You left no wiggle room.
That's a Mark Kelly narrative that he's invested a lot of money selling people.
Wasn't it on your website?
No, I am pro-life. That's a matter of conscience for me. I'm pro-life. Now, what I believe in is reasonable pro-life limits on abortion. Okay, so during the primary, and it's what I'll tell you now, I always thought we needed to repeal Roe versus Wade. I'm glad that the Supreme Court did that. Send that issue back to the states. And I'll support Arizona whatever they decide. I've come out in favor of Arizona's 15-week law. I think that's where people in Arizona are. I think that's a reasonable place to draw the line, right? Regardless of my personal beliefs, I'll represent Arizonans on this issue. Mark Kelly, though, we need to set up the contrast. Mark Kelly, as a matter of federal law in the Senate, sponsored legislation that would have mandated legal abortion nationwide up until the moment of birth. All abortions, legal, no limits, until the moment a baby is due to be born.
Those are
Think about how radical that is.
Exclusively, though, are they not, to save the life of a mother? Any really late-term abortion.
We can write that exception, and I believe in that exception. Mark Kelly's lying when he says I don't. I always believe in an exception to save the life of the mother. But that's not what their bill did.
Always.
I do.
Okay.
Mark Kelly's bill said unlimited abortion nationwide up until the moment of birth. Senator Elizabeth Warren voted for that. Bernie Sanders voted for that. AOC voted for that in the House. And the only countries in the whole world with that kind of radical no limits policies that would allow you to kill a baby for no reason at 8 months and 30 days are China and North Korea. That's the kind of company that Mark Kelly keeps on this issue. So he calls me a radical. No, I say 15 weeks is fine. Yeah, always an exception to save the life of the mother. He believes in abortion on demand up until birth. And 70% of Arizonans know that's murder. That's crazy.
Did you agree with the position of a national personhood law, which is basically, that really refers to what would be a constitutional amendment, a national law recognizing that children are human beings and should not be killed.
At a certain point, when we all agree that they're viable, right? Mark Kelly says that, oh, Blake wants to ban abortion from day one. I never said that. I always said send the issue back to the states and let's have a federal backstop. At a certain point, right? People disagree about this issue early, but at a certain point, everybody of good conscience knows. Month 5, month 6, month 7, you can debate about where to draw the line, but that's a human being. And you shouldn't be killing viable babies at month 7, month 8, month 9 for no reason. And that's what Mark Kelly supports. That is so radical. And by definition, he's extreme and can't represent the vast majority of Arizonans on this issue.
There's an ad out right now blasting you for saying that we might want to consider privatizing Social Security. President Clinton even proposed this at one time. President Bush talked about it. Where are you on that? Has that been misconstrued, what you're saying about Social Security?
It has been. The Democrats are very clever. They take these 2-second sound bites and put it out of context, right? They never show you the 20 seconds before or the 20 seconds after. When I'm asked about Social Security, I tell people the truth. We can never cut Social Security for seniors, for people who are building their lives around reliance on the promises that the government made them. I'm never going to cut Social Security. I'm looking for ways to save the system. The biggest threat to retirement today is the inflation that Joe Biden and Mark Kelly have caused. It's throwing seniors out on the street. It's unforgivable. Now, I'm looking for ways to save the system. If you ask a young person, a 20-year-old, hey, are you on track to get Social Security? They'll laugh at you. They don't expect the program to be there, often because politicians like Mark Kelly dip their hand in the cookie jar. They raid the Social Security coffers to pay for their spending. So I say, let's let young people save in private supplemental retirement accounts. We're not messing with Social Security. but let's let young people save tax-free and invest. And maybe in 50 years in the market, they'll be rich. And that takes some strain off the Social Security system. And if it doesn't work out, Social Security will always be there because it's a core part of the American dream. You're never going to fall through the cracks. And so Mark Kelly's just lying about this.
The other one that's out talks about you saying, we don't have a general in the U.S. military right now who's ever won a war. Is that true?
It is true. Isn't it true? Look, Obama went and fired all of the great generals. Maybe not all of them, but man, most of them. The guys who won Desert Storm. Obama purged the military, and he elevated left-wing mediocrities like General Milley. Right? General Milley spends his days worrying about how to teach soldiers about Karl Marx and critical race theory. And you've got the United States Navy telling sailors that they have to use gender pronouns. Well, compare and contrast that irresponsible treatment of the military as a social experiment with General Milley's failure in Afghanistan. I have way too much respect for our troops to tolerate that, and so I'm going to call out that very political layer of military leadership. And Mark Kelly can beat me up for it, but actually I get so many emails from enlisted guys, so many emails from captains. They tell me I'm right. They know that past a 2-star, most of these generals are woke left-wing politicians. I won't stand for it.
I want to give you an opportunity because I try to do this with the candidates. What is the biggest misconception about Blake Masters that you would like to clear up?
Well, we've been doing that. This is good. I mean, Mark Kelly, he's got a lot of money, right? They've spent $65 million trying to prop him up and tear me down. And I just keep getting closer and closer in the polls. But he's got to lie. He's got to try to vilify me. He's got to try to make me some evil person on TV because he doesn't want to talk about the wide open border that he's caused. He doesn't want to talk about the double-digit inflation. He doesn't want to talk about the rising crime in Arizona. So he's just trying to make me a monster on TV, and I'm glad we're getting the chance to clear up some of these crazy attack ads. I tell people, if you like the way things are going, if you like the fentanyl coming in and the flood of illegal immigration, and you like being less and less safe week over week because, Mark Kelly and Biden, they don't support our police, hey, there's the Senate candidate for you. Vote for Mark Kelly. You'll get more of the same. But if you think you deserve better and you want to make a change, I'm the change. That's why I think we'll win this election. We just have to tell the truth. And he's got to lie.
Blake Masters, candidate for U.S. Senate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That was Blake Masters from a few weeks ago. Now, his opponent, Democrat incumbent Senator Mark Kelly, was invited multiple times to come on Newsmaker Saturday. We would have loved to have had him. We will still have him if he chooses to. But so far, they have chosen not to appear. By the way, we've had Senator Kelly on this program before, so there's no problem there. He just does not want to appear for whatever reason. We did catch up with him on the campaign trail. Here's a little of what he had to say about two of the biggest issues, border and abortion.
Well, I think what's also on their mind, are especially for women, is losing a constitutional right. I mean, women in our state have been teleported back to 1864. Where they do not have the right to get an abortion. And it's going to bounce around in the courts for a while, but this has been taken away from them. My daughter, who lives here, and my granddaughter, who live in Tucson, now has fewer rights than my mother or my grandmother did. And that's something my opponent wanted. He has called for a national abortion ban that's so strict that even in the case of when a woman is raped, she will not get to make this decision herself or between her and her doctor. And that's what he wanted. Well, he's called abortion demonic, a religious sacrifice. He says he wants to punish the doctors. The national abortion ban that he's called for criminalizes this decision for women, potentially throwing them in jail. I mean, this isn't something he said, years ago. This is something he said during the campaign, repeatedly, on camera. I think Arizonans know where we both stand on these issues, and where I stand on this issue. I'm going to fight every day I'm in the United States Senate to get women back their constitutional rights on this so they can make this decision themselves. My opponent thinks he knows better than women and doctors about abortion. He really does, and he thinks he should get to make this decision for women in Arizona, and he shouldn't. Border security, I mean, I've been working on this since, day one in office. I've spent a ton of time at the border listening to mayors, folks at Border Patrol and CBP and sheriffs. And then when I go back to Washington to take action, $1 billion more for technology, for Border Patrol agents, for monitoring at the border, The infrastructure bill, adding into the infrastructure bill that we will upgrade our ports of entry. And with those ports of entry being rebuilt, we're going to get more technology, keep fentanyl out of the country. So I've taken multiple actions. And on the administration, on when the president's doing something that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, I tell him he's wrong. When he's going to change policy that's going to make this crisis worse, and it's been a crisis, and it's been decades of a crisis at our southern border. But I'm not going to let them take actions that's going to make this worse for Arizona. This is a crisis, and it has gotten worse, and the numbers speak for themselves.
Welcome back. We are getting significant movement in the top races in Arizona. InsiderAdvantage is exclusively doing the polling for Fox 10 this campaign year, and Chairman and founder Matt Towery joins me now. Matt, thanks for joining us. And the movement in the governor's race, wow. Kari Lake in your poll, and we'll show it, she's out to an 11-point lead now.
Well, and I know that's going to be viewed as an outlier because a lot of the polls have had this race much tighter. And I always want to remind people the margin of error in this is 4.2%, which means you could be off by 4.2% in one direction, and then that means the other candidate adds 4.2. So that's almost a 9-point swing that could take place. So it doesn't mean this race is over by any stretch of the imagination. That said, a lot of the polls that we've been seeing prior to our poll coming out this week are polls that were actually conducted several weeks ago, and they're just being released now. So we may be catching a momentum shift that we're seeing, quite frankly, in gubernatorial races all over the country.
No kidding. Well, I do know, we go back to your poll of September 6th, 7th, the last time we spoke about this. Kari Lake was at 43%, trailing Katie Hobbs by 1%. Now she's pulled ahead in your poll by 11%. RCP, Real Clear Politics, they do an amalgam of all the polling. They've got Kari Lake up now by 3.2%. So there is something happening on the ground.
Yeah, something's going on. And I just want to make a note here. I alluded to it just a moment ago. This week, we have seen a shift in these gubernatorial races more than anything towards Republican candidates all over the country. For example, in Florida, which is normally a 2 or 3 point race, either Democrat or Republican, and it has gone Republican more recently. We're now seeing, DeSantis up by as much as 12 and 13 points, and Rubio up by 6 and 7. That's unheard of in Florida in recent years. And we're seeing it even in Oregon. Admittedly, there are 2 Democrats in that race, but the Republican has surged ahead in Oregon. In Georgia, Brian Kemp is beating Stacey Abrams, a household name in America, by some 10 points. So there's something going on. I'm not saying that that's the case or the final result that you'll have in Arizona, but I think there is a movement that has started a couple of weeks ago, and now we're really seeing it begin to accelerate.
Well, you said it 2 weeks ago. You said that you were starting to see what you believe is a red wave.
Yeah, and believe it or not, so your listener, your viewers will know this. I am probably the most hated pollster by Republican consultants and politicians, because I'm often so critical of the campaigns they run, because their ads I don't think are creative, and they don't spend as much money as they say they're going to spend. So I'm not the good guy as far as a lot of Republicans nationally view things. But that said, I can even pick up a wave. I've seen it before. And this is beginning to develop into quite a wave. On the federal level, the races have so much money in them that they're not moving as fast, but they are sort of trailing the gubernatorial races. And we see that in the Senate race in Arizona. But boy, in these gubernatorial races where the issues are more local and they often deal with crime or immigration or some issues around
the economy,
what they call wokeism.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's moving the vote in these states, left and right.
Matt, is this a rejection of Democrats or a love affair with Republicans all of a sudden?
Well, I told you the Republican consultants don't love me. There is no love affair towards Republicans. I think most Americans are equal opportunity. I can't stand politicians. But that said, my personal view is that some of the trends that started nationally, which I just mentioned, are now being placed on the shoulders of Democratic candidates running in statewide races. And President Biden's approval rating, last time we checked in Arizona, was going down. I don't think it's gone up. So there's a national spillover, but I think it spills over to local issues. And the Democrats, I think some of their advisors and consultants who advised them probably in the wrong direction. They put their pedal on the accelerator when it came to issues of sort of changing, reimagining policing, for example, which was a buzzword that they came up with. And it hasn't worked. It's been a disaster for them politically.
Let's check in on the Senate race in Arizona. You've got it pretty tight. And by the way, Mark Victor at about 6%. That's about, he was at 5 last time you did the polling, but he is definitely probably siphoning some votes from Blake Masters. But this is ninth inning stuff, right?
Yeah, and I said it last time, John. This is the first time I've ever seen a libertarian going up, not down, in the last few weeks of the campaign. I mean, I've never seen this happen before. Now, admittedly, it's a very small amount. But I jokingly said, it would seem to me that the Masters campaign would start concentrating on this libertarian, because if they lose this race, they're not losing it to Mark Kelly. They're losing it because of a libertarian.
Wow, that is so interesting. Can we put up the Kari Lake, Katie Hobbs race one more time? There was something interesting that has shifted in the last few weeks. Back on September 6, 7, you had 10% undecided. Now you're down to 2% undecided. It would seem by your poll that has almost exclusively moved to Kari Lake.
Yes, and in that race we have other listed, and the other has not gained anything. All of this has gone in the Lake direction. And of course, I'm polling for Fox affiliates all over the country, so I'm not able to keep up with the various issues or what moves races. But I did talk to several of my colleagues when we had this number, and I said, wow, this is going to be viewed as an outlier. And I get it. What's going on in Arizona? What I was told is that there has been, since all this no debate issue that came up, that there's been sort of a pivot in terms of the voting trends there in the polling that others are seeing. And so we've either caught this wave at its height, and maybe it'll go down again, or we've caught it as it's reaching its crescendo, or I guess it could build, but that would be quite a stretch, because really it's rare for people to win by those sort of margins these days.
On this latest poll, you did not poll Joe Biden's favorability. You did a couple of, about a month ago.
Right.
Why not, and what do you think it's showing?
Well, I'll tell you why. You and I have talked about this in prior broadcasts. The secret to our success that we've had, and we've been pretty successful in recent cycles in terms of getting these races right, is to have very short questionnaires, because you can't call people or text them and say, oh, do you have 25 minutes of your time to tell us what you think about a political race that either they've already voted in, they're voting in, or they don't care about. So as we get, and let me also add, I also talked about how hard it is now to communicate with voters. We're running out of avenues to poll. So in doing this right now, all of the communication systems are jammed with political calls and texts, and people are just overwhelmed. So to get a successful poll, you can't ask 25 or 30 questions. You've got to ask just the bare bottom questions, the demographics, how likely they are to vote, and goodbye and thank you for participating. When you do that, something's got to go in the last 2 weeks. And so the Biden approval rating, which is really, he's not running in Arizona. We know his approval rating is not good, so we took it out.
Okay. Matt Towery, chairman and founder of InsiderAdvantage, who's doing our polling for Fox 10 and the other Fox affiliates, is here. Matt, great to see you, and we'll have you back. We'll scorecard this thing maybe one more time before we go. Thank you.
Well, then we'll scorecard it after it's over, right, and see if I'm right.
You got a deal. Matt Towery, thank you.